Hello there and welcome to another Coffee with Colin, and thank you for joining me. I'll give you a laugh. I was doing a tour of Carambola during the week with a group of third and fourth class kids. One of the great privileges I have as founder and MD of Carambola is that regularly I get to show the place to clients, whether they're children or school principals or parents or whatever. And last Wednesday I had the great privilege of welcoming two classes from one of our local client schools local to us in Limerick, third and fourth class. And these kids were 8, 9 and 10 years of age, and two of the teachers came along with them. And it's great fun. Really, you know, you get a group of kids, they all get in and they get their little white coats on, they get their little blue hats on, and it's sort of fun for them and for me, and indeed for the team. So we took a trip down through the place, and the way it works is as I'm leading a group, I get the first two kids to hold the doors open so that the rest can all come through, and then the two kids that held the doors open, at each juncture they fall in behind and the teachers follow in on behind that. And we go down and we visit the goods inwards area, and then we look through a window, a sort of screening window where we can look into the kitchen and see all the sandwiches being made. And the kids typically knock on the glass and wave at the ladies and the gents in there. And it brings a bit of frivolity into their day, which starts very early, starts at 4 a.m. And then we trooped into the packing room where we put the sandwiches and the salads and whatnot into the individual children's lunches. And we looked at the allergy system, and we looked at the packing system, and we looked at our fleet of vans. And then we took a trip up through our offices and back to the boardroom where I gave these little kids a very short presentation, little PowerPoint presentation on the history of Carambola. Carambola's 15 years old. These kids were only 8, 9 and 10. Anyway, it was good fun. And during the course of the tour, I gave them some tidbits of information, and then I asked questions at the very end. You know, how many vans do we have? How many lunches do we produce? How many schools do we visit every day? Etc., etc., etc. And we had great fun. And then I turned it into a Q&A from the floor. And I said, anybody want to ask any questions? And little hands shot up all over the place. And I picked this little girl just off to my right. And she says to me, I said, what's your question? And she said, how old are you? Right? And of course I started to laugh, as did the rest of the class. Teachers were mortified. And but anyway, the little kid wanted to know how old I was. And I said, okay, that's interesting. I said, well, before I answer, how old are you? And she said, I'm 9. And she was all proud of being 9. And I said, okay, well, I said, I'm 55, right? But I said, that might sound very old, but let me tell you what I learned about aging recently, which I find really interesting. I said that I used to think that as people got older, they got less useful. And I think society in general does think of older people as being somewhat less useful. But in fact, if we changed our perception of aging and turned it into a concept where instead of us getting older, we're in fact graduating up through the levels, well, that changes the whole dynamic, doesn't it? And I said to the little girl, I said, so on that basis, I said, you're only level 9 and I'm level 55. Happy days. How cool is that? And of course, it was interesting. We got a bit of a ripple of laughter, and one little kid over the far side of the room stuck up his hand and he said, I'm level 10. And I thought, isn't that just dead cool? This little kid's after getting it straight away. So we did a sort of a, hands up, who's level 8, and all these little hands went up, and who's level 9, all these little hands went up, and who's level 10, all these little hands went up. And interestingly, the female teachers were all level 25. Amazing. What a coincidence. But I'm level 55 and I'm dead proud of being level 55. And I've touched on this before, but I felt when the little girl reminded me of it, I felt I should go a little bit deeper with it, because yes, I am level 55. And when I say I'm level 55, I'm healthy and I'm strong and I'm happy and I've meaningful work to do, and I've got meaningful relationships to be involved with, including a relationship with myself. I'm in a good space at this time. And so I really feel I'm level 55, and I'm really excited about being level 60, 70, 80, 90 and 100. Can't wait, right? Now, I'm not going to wish it away, but I'm excited about the possibilities. And it got me thinking that I'd like to pose a question this week in this week's Coffee with Colin. What level are you at? Now, before you answer and sort of say I'm level 35, 55, 63 or whatever it is, your age, I want you to think a little deeper, right? Because just because you're 25, 55, 63 does not necessarily mean that you're at that level. Let me explain, because some people get into their careers in their early 20s and they complete one round of a year where they get all the experience, and then they repeat that experience forever. So there are some people, in fact, age 55 like I am, but they're level 25 because they stopped growing at age 25. And the question I want to ask of you, I want you to ask of yourself is, what level are you at really? How old are you and what level are you at? And if your level, matches or exceeds your age, happy days. But if your level is in fact 25 and you're touching 50, well, maybe it's time to shake things up a little bit. So really what I want to do is get you thinking about what level are you really at. We really need to change our view of aging. Instead of getting older, let's all graduate up through the levels. Let's become more expert in every sense and wiser in every sense as we grow up through the levels. And if we do that, I think the future is very exciting for all of us. So what I want you to do, please, is remind yourself what age you will be in 2020, your 2020 vision. Remind yourself what age you will be in 2020. And then ask yourself, will you be that level or beyond when you get there? And if the answer to that second question is no, well then I recommend you go and do something about it. What age will you be in 2020 and what level will you be at in 2020? And then go make it happen. And thank you for joining me for this week's Coffee with Colm. I hope and trust as ever that you got something from it. If you have done and you think somebody else would benefit, I'd be delighted if you'd pass the link on. If you've enjoyed it, it's your first time here and you'd like more of this type of stuff, well then pop to the homepage, ColmO'BrienMotivation.com, leave me some details and I'll make sure you get a link like this every week. Most importantly, please consider what's been shared here today and apply it into your thinking for this next week. And then equally as importantly, please come back next week and we share another coffee together and I'll ruminate on some other aspect of life and business. Between now and then, I recommend you go get some good coffee if you can, get some fresh air for sure. If you spend a lot of time alone, I recommend you go meet some people. And conversely, if you spend a lot of time with people, I recommend you take a little time alone. And then when the time is right, and only when the time is right, get your head back in the game, get organised for the week ahead, get stuck in, make next week count, and I'll see you here this time next week. Sláinte. I really love great coffee. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.